who is really to be blamed for Afghanistan? Is it Trump or Biden?
It's Biden, or whoever is telling Biden what to do. Because I don't think, I mean, just I suspect you know this, but let me just state the obvious. This is American military. This is the most powerful military in the history of the world. All right. This is a military that has boundless capacity, boundless technology, and an incredible range of brain power down to the most micro level decisions. We don't pick up and leave Bagram Air Base in the middle of the night after we've had 20 years of experience in Iraq and elsewhere of handing off military assets. It's not like we hadn't done this before.
Right.
You know, when you pick up and then not even really mention too broadly in the United States, the prison, the Bagram prison that was housing some of the most dangerous terrorist elements in the world, left completely unguarded. Thousands who have now been released and sprung on Afghanistan by the Taliban because of that. So my concerns go back, that was, I believe, July 2nd and 3rd. It was one of the first few days of July where that decision to me made zero sense. Trump, if you recall, in the agreement, the Doha agreement with the Taliban had what was properly labeled a condition-based withdrawal. So it was a phase down and a withdrawal, but it was a kind of, we take a step, you take a step, we take a step, you take a step. And ultimately, the design was that we were not going to defeat the Taliban militarily like we could ISIS or Al-Qaeda. They've got a base of political support in Afghanistan that I'm going to ballpark at 15 to 20%. It's not enough to win an election, but it's enough that and they replace their fighters, replenish them. You know, so we had an early recognition that you weren't going to just exterminate the Taliban completely.
Right.
But when you ponder the fact that we had 20 years of strengthening and developing, and the Afghan people had experience in developing what was, frankly, an emerging democracy. I don't like that that's laughed at, scoffed at, or not taken seriously, because I know the Afghans put a lot of effort in and had a lot of justifiable pride in the development of a representative government that was accountable to them, and human rights conditions, and a constitution that I personally reread right after the fall of Kabul, that I think, you know, while it's not a constitution we would ever have, it's a very well done and a crystal clear constitution. And the constitution, not yielding to Taliban militancy, should be the road forward right now in every government in the world. I mean, who is any government in the world? Who is Pakistan or China to be coming in and saying this constitution that you developed with slightly over 500 men and women from around Afghanistan, delegates, almost reminiscent in some ways of our own constitutional convention. They debated, they didn't have consensus on issue, they conceded points, and they ultimately developed, you know, a constitution that was signed by the president. It was subject to amendment and never, to my knowledge, amended, and it was working. Who are you to come in and just sort of say, well, no, these guys over here had guns and have taken control of these buildings here in Kabul, so they're the government now. I mean, that to me is an unbelievably dangerous precedent. And I have said this broadly as it relates to China and Pakistan. They need to be very careful, because there's plenty of people out there that are prepared to recognize nationalist movements inside both of those countries as standalone governments. I mean, you know, at this point, why shouldn't we recognize East Turkestan or Tibet or Hong Kong as an independent country? I mean, the whole idea was, no, we have a respect for the sovereignty of standalone countries, even ones that we have profound disagreements with, when they themselves set a precedent of coming in, trampling on the Constitution, trampling on representative democracy, willing to die because of their
Right.
obsession with Islamic extremism, and take control of a few buildings. That doesn't constitute a government, and it sets an incredibly dangerous message in the 21st century that the world is not speaking out more boldly and loudly on this. And quite honestly, with the exception of a few human rights groups here and there, India and President Modi are doing, I think, an outstanding job. They're really one of the really reliable, sound, logical voices on this, and understanding the diverse opinions exist in India as well. But by and large, you really see it from there. And even in the United States, what if we have all these organizations? I've worked for some supporting democracy all over the world. Where are they? We don't develop these constitutions for smooth sailing times. We develop them for moments like this. So you have a president who flees the country, no sign that he's coming back. I think it's Article 27, perhaps, of that Constitution clearly specifies the interim president, Saleh, should be recognized as the first vice president should be recognized as the interim president, and elections are to be held pretty quickly. That's what the whole world should be focused on recognizing him, on protecting the interim government, and on helping them with any infrastructure needed to hold elections. Instead, we're rushing to celebrate the rising of the Taliban flag as a trample on human rights. And probably, I don't think there's any doubt about it, have been engaged in war crimes where they don't belong in Kabul, they belong in The Hague. I mean, if we're trying the Serbs for war crimes, we tried the Serbs for war crimes. We have one of these, we have a minister in the Taliban government that's on the FBI most wanted list.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.